Great. Thanks, Kim. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the Kent Branch April 2022 educational presentation. My name is Cindy Robichaud, and I am part of the Kent Branch operating team, and I will be your host for this evening. Thank you all for joining us. Before we begin, we have tonight's presentation. Whoops, sorry, going too fast. Before we begin tonight's presentation, Bob Daly, a member of the Delaware Nation and a Kent Branch member, offers a territory acknowledgement.
The land on which we gather, learn, and play is the traditional territory of the Attawandaron, Anishinaabeg, Haudenosaunee, Lunapawak, and Potawatomi peoples who have long-standing relationships to the land, water, and region of southwestern Ontario. The local First Nations of this area include Chippewa of the Thames First Nation, the Caldwell First Nation, Chippewa of Kettle and Stony Point, Oneida Nation of the Thames, the Delaware Nation at Moraviantown, the Munsee Delaware Nation, and Walpole Island First Nation. Additionally, there is a growing urban indigenous population who make the cities of southwestern Ontario home. We value the significant historical and contemporary contributions of local and regional First Nations of Turtle Island.
Thank you, Bob. We do have a couple of housekeeping items. Before we begin, our presentations are recorded and they are available on our YouTube channel, which is open to everyone. Your microphones and your cameras have been turned off, but we welcome your questions. If you hover your mouse near the bottom of your screen, you will see the bar with the chat icon. If you click on it, the chat box will open. And here you can type your message or questions for us or for the speaker, which we will get to at the end of the presentation. Angela Churchill will be monitoring the chat for us tonight, and we thank you, Angela. So let's get started. For anyone joining us for the first time, let me tell you a bit about Ontario Ancestors. Ontario Ancestors, also known as the Ontario Genealogical Society, is a nonprofit registered charity which was founded in 1961. It is the largest genealogical society in Canada, with a mission to encourage, bring together, and assist those interested in the pursuit of family history and to preserve Ontario's genealogical heritage. Be sure to visit the website to learn more about the resources and support available to assist you in your family history research. Ontario Ancestors has over 30 branches and several special interest groups all across Ontario, and we are the Kent Branch. Our focus is mainly on Kent County research and general family history. We offer mentoring and education and assistance. We host many educational presentations, and we have a fantastic resource library. Our Family History Resource Library is located on the second floor of the Chatham-Kent Public Library. It holds 40 years worth of historical and genealogical resources for Chatham-Kent. And we are open to the public on Fridays and Saturdays from 1 p.m. till 5 p.m. We always like to connect with people interested in genealogy and local history. You can connect with us at the email on your screen. You can also join our Kent Branch Facebook group, which has over 700 people who are interested in genealogy and Chatham-Kent history. We also have a very comprehensive website with lots of resources for both our branch members and for the public. So speaking of our website, which is on the screen, please notice that our home page is on the screen. So please notice the master name index, which currently has almost 180,000 entries, which anyone can search. On our website, we share upcoming event information and offer a featured resource, which we switch out regularly. This section is open to the public as well, so be sure to drop in and have a look. And then we also have one section which is totally dedicated to providing resources and one-of-a-kind material for our branch members to access from home. This is our virtual members library. This is a great benefit to being a Kent branch member. As you can see, the variety of categories. Each category is packed with materials and resources that our members can access from home. So we do hope you visit our website and browse around. We do have some news from the Society. As of April 1st, anyone joining or renewing from outside of Canada will be able to pay their membership fees in Canadian dollars instead of US dollars. So this is really great news for our international supporters and members. Also, you might want to mark your calendars for the Ontario Ancestors 2022 virtual conference being held in Ottawa or hosted by Ottawa, happening June 24th to 26th. And be sure to visit the conference website for all the details. And then our next educational presentation will be May the 13th. So if you have ancestors or research in Kent County, then the Chatham-Kent Public Library is a valuable resource for you. Librarian Megan Cowan will be joining us to discuss the services, material, and the resources available through the Chatham-Kent Public Library. As always, our presentations are free and open to everyone. Simply register to attend. Registration information can be found on our Kent branch website and will also be posted in our Facebook group. So we hope that you will join us. Now let's get to tonight's presentation. The Federated Women's Institute of Ontario is celebrating 125 years of supporting women in Ontario and around the world. Many of us are familiar with the Tweedsmire history books and the wealth of information they captured and preserved of local community history. These books are a gold mine of information for family historians. Irene Robillard joins us tonight to discuss Women's Institute, their digital collections, and the Tweedsmire books from Kent County. So I'll turn it over to Angela now, who will introduce our speaker. So Angela, if you want to turn on your microphone, you're on.
Good evening, everyone. Irene Robillard has been a member of the Women's Institute for more than 40 years. She's taken on a number of roles at various levels, including voting delegate at the world level conferences. Irene was the provincial Tweedsmire coordinator from 2010 to 2014 and was the provincial digitizing coordinator until 2018. She is currently part of the WI digitizing team of Ontario. Enjoying both history and genealogy, Irene is the author of 3 books on local history in the Ottawa Valley and was the coordinator for the WI Ontario's book, Ordinary to Extraordinary, published in 2017 to celebrate Canada's 150th anniversary. She also volunteers at her local archives and received a Certificate of Achievement from the Ontario Heritage Trust in 2008. Irene is a member of the Ottawa branch as well as other genealogical organizations. She's married with 2 children and plenty of grandchildren. Her DNA results show she's 100% British Isles, and she's continuing to try and determine where in Ireland her McEwen family emigrated from. So welcome, Irene. Take it away.
Thank you very much, Angela and Cindy. So I'll share my screen.
Irene, you're just muted.
That's better, I hope.
There you are.
So thank you very much for inviting me to talk to you this evening and for everyone taking the time to attend. This is a summary of the presentation that I'll give tonight, just an overview of the Women's Institute, and then go into the Tweedsmire community histories, including some examples, and then getting into the online collections, and finally talking about the Kent OGS project. Just have to get rid of my screen here. Okay, the Women's Institute. It was the original vision of Adelaide Hunter Hoodless. Her young son had died from contaminated milk, and she was an educated lady, but she wanted to educate women to ensure this did not happen to others. She talked to many organizations for a number of years, including the Farmers Institute, and it was there that she was heard by Erland Lee. Erland Lee thought this was important information, so he and his wife Janet set up a meeting, and 101 ladies attended, as well as Erland. And then on February 19th, 1897, 125 years ago, there was the first meeting. And picture of Janet Lee, and the picture on the right is the dining room at their home where the original Constitution was signed. And now this home is our museum. It's both a provincial and national historic site. It's at Stony Creek, Ontario, and it's the first branch in the world. And the museum is also celebrating its 50th anniversary this year. And before I forget, there is a handout available that has all the links and more information about things. So the movement spread worldwide across Ontario, Canada, and then the world. The umbrella world organization is the Associated Women of the World. 9 million members and over 450 societies in more than 70 countries. And it is the largest rural women's organization in the world. We have consultative status at the United Nations and provide funding for a variety of projects to the third world, but not necessarily, on health, water, farming, micro businesses, etc. We are a non-profit charity, nonpartisan, non-sectarian, non-neutral. The base is the branch. We're grouped into districts, which are parts of areas, and at the provincial level, it's the Federated Women's Institutes of Ontario. In 1919, to have the branches work together rather than scattered in what they were doing. So currently across Ontario, we have 2,200 members in 213 branches, which is about 10 members per branch. This is our active branches in Ontario, a pictorial of where we are at. You can see that there are a few up in the north, one lonely one in the northeast, and then some in the northwest, but it is very much centered around central Ontario. And this is a find a branch in the Women's Institute website. There are 23 active branches in southern area. Most are in Oxford. There's some in all the other ones except for Essex, which doesn't currently have any active branches. And I should note that the locations of these pins are based on the secretary's address and not necessarily the actual place where the branch is. There are currently 3 active branches in Kent District, Kent Bridge, Palmyra, if that's how you pronounce it, and Wabash. So why did we join? For educational opportunities, to help and improve communities, and to improve ourselves. And I think probably the most important for many people is social, to meet neighbors and friends. Our motto is for home and country, and we actively work together for families, homes, and communities. Our education, we're known as the ROSE programs, which is Reaching Ontario Sharing Education. And we provide health and social services, information, and educational opportunities. And here's some recent examples in just my branch. The first 2 were prior to the COVID. We haven't had any community nights since COVID has started. But we had Lyme disease awareness, CPR training. Our last month at our monthly meeting. We have companion planting for gardens, and we also have weekly craft and walking groups. So there's something for everyone. And if it's not there, you can create it. Lobbying and advocacy in the past and in the present. And these are just a few screens of some of the items. We did a lot of campaigning trying to get traffic stop buses. If you've seen the centerline mark on roads, that's due to the Women's Institute. And one of our first was pasteurized milk. We've also done various campaigns for ensuring fair prices for Canadian consumers and producers of cattle and other agricultural foods. We did some lobbying so that all babies automatically get a birth certificate, and we're instrumental in founding Brock University. Our present advocacy, there's three, or there's probably a few more, but the main three are improving the diagnosis and prevention of Lyme disease. We've been fundraising and providing donations to the University of Guelph's G. Magnata Foundation Lab. We're trying to reinstate lifestyle programs in schools, such as cooking and nutrition. And one of our most recent is supporting Project Maple Leaf and bringing awareness and prevention of human trafficking in Canada. I wasn't aware until just recently how prevalent human trafficking actually is in Canada. One would think it's in some other country, but it's very much here in Canada. Some community involvement that we do. Each branch has different things that they would do, but we do yearly donations to causes. We help create archives and museums in the past, support local fairs, community events. We make chemo hats and fidget blankets and provide blankets and bears for children in accidents or at a hospital, and help out where possible. Just one of the community activities has been supported in the past, probably about 10 years ago, where they wanted the Women's Institute to sell pies for the Prince and the Prior, which is Arm Prior. So the Tweedsmires. They're officially known as Tweedsmire Community History Collections, but they're commonly known as Tweedsmires. It's a history of a given local community, and most branches have created one. No two are identical. They can be simple scrapbook of newspaper clippings or a series of bound volumes, and it reflects the creator's style and creativity. They're named in honor of Lord Tweedsmire, Canada's Governor General in the 1940s. His wife, Lady Tweedsmire, was a strong supporter of the Women's Institute, as she was a member when she was in Britain. So they decided to have a campaign for every branch to have start a Tweedsmire book for the Women's Institute's 50th anniversary in 1947. So these books have started 75 years ago. We have won a number of awards over the years, with I think the latest one being the Scatting Award of Excellence by the Ontario Historical Society for an outstanding contribution to the field of history. These are just some examples of covers that you would see. The one on the left is my own branch, Burnstown Women's Institute in the Ottawa Valley. And it's the normal one you would see as a branch's first Tweedsmire book. And then there are others. The Braeside one is made of white pine because it was the white pine capital of the world at one point in time. The one on the left, there are some large-sized volumes around. The Essex District Cottam Women's Institute, which is the only one that has been digitized from Essex District, is 415 pages long. And you can see the one on the right. This is from northeastern Ontario that was found. It's 350 pages, and there are larger. Dr. Linda Ambrose has said that the Tweedsmire history books are one of the most important resources we have for studying Ontario history at the local level. These are just some examples that I'll go through. Most are from the Ottawa Valley where I live, but I did try to find some closer to Kent County. So this is for a farming community, Loch Winnow, which is in Renfrew County. And this is a 1951 map of the owners of the various properties. This one is from Lundy's Corners, a sketch where things situated, and this place is no longer exists. The corner exists, but there's no buildings there. As all the buildings or the shops and stuff moved to the railway station, which was about 2 kilometers away. There's streetscapes. This is of Burnstown when my branch first started in 1911, around that time. And this is in the 1960s from the same view. So you can see how it has changed. Roads have even been moved. There are images of stores and other shops, schools, the cheese factories. This is Robert Cherry delivering mail in the 1920s. There are a lot of historical items. For example, this is a voter list for the township of McNabb in 1921, and it lists all the people that were eligible to vote in that year. So it would be great for someone who was doing research in McNabb Township, which is part of Brantford County. Closer to your home, Cottam, Tweedsmire, there's the heritage of the United Church there. The booklet is part of their Tweedsmire book, as well as the dedication of the Rotary Memorial Park of 1950. There are a lot of farm histories, some more detailed than others, and many with photos. There are photos of people that have been killed in action. This is the first burial in Burr United Cemetery from the volume 9 of their Tweedsmire book. It's an 1835 marker. There's also a lot of people showing in the books. This one is from Cottam, Tweedsmire again, and it's congratulations to Mrs. Eileen Small for being the provincial president of the Women's Institute. There's anniversaries. And if you're related to the Pender family in Amundsen Township in Renfrew County, you would love to get a hold of the Balsam Hill Tweedsmire book because there's pages of photos on the Pender family. There are students and classes listed. This one's from near Sault Ste. Marie. And of course, a lot of Women's Institute of photos and events. So where are all the Tweedsmires? Many are still with the branch in the members' homes, or they've been deposited in local archives and museums, libraries, etc. And since 2010, there's been a concerted effort to locate the books and create a list. Now the list is available on the website under the history pull down, and I provided the link in the handout. It lists over 2,000 branches by district and provides a location of the Tweedsmire if known, and it is a working list and updates are added regularly. So I'll give you some examples of this list. It's a partial list. I concentrated on the Kent branches. So rather than list all the branches across Ontario alphabetical, the list is grouped by districts within areas so that they are geographically together. Kent County had 2 districts at one time, Kent East and Kent West, and within each historic district, the branches are alphabetical. In Kent East, there are still 2 branches that are active, and those are shown. I've highlighted them with the yes. It shows the year organized, ended, whether we knew there were Tweedsmire volumes or not. The TH stands for Tweedsmire History. It's my short form. And if they knew how many volumes and the location. in Kent West or branch line, but there's only one active branch at this point in time. The year ended, if I wasn't sure of the year, we put either disbanded, which probably means it was really early, or post 1995, because I knew it existed in 1995, but I didn't know when it actually disbanded. So our online collection. This we call the virtual archives. And it's an online platform to view digitized documents. It's free and searchable if the document is not handwritten. We call it virtual as the digital documents are in one spot while the originals remain in their local community. It was never the intent to move the Tweedsmire's books out of the local community. The structure, again, is like the list, it's the Women's Institute hierarchy, branches within districts, within areas, within regions, again, so geographically they could be together. So how the digitizing was funded. It first actually was funded through the Ontario Genealogical Society in preparation of the proposed e-library. Then after that, Library and Archives Canada started their Documentary Heritage Communities program, and we received 2 grants from them, and I'll explain that a little more detail next slide. So the Tweedsmire books were rounded up and digitized. And then while we were doing this, we found some that had previously been digitized, but not online. And they've been digitized by various branches, museums, archives, etc. And there also were some that have been self-funded by various Women's Institute levels, which some have paid through their own funds and some through community funds. This is a timeline. It's a little complex, but basically November 2009, the Women's Institute signed an agreement with the Ontario Genealogical Society to put the Tweedsmires in an e-library. And this is when we started the list of all the branches past and present because we didn't know where all the Tweedsmires were. And the Ontario Genealogical Society digitized 65 sets of books, including all the home and countries and the provincial Tweedsmires. But the e-library did not materialize and the grants stopped, I guess, around 2013. So at that point in time, in July 2015, we discontinued the agreement with the Ontario Genealogical Society, and I was about to go and explain to the various branches how they could try to self-fund to continue on. That summer, about a month or so later, that's when the Library and Archives Canada grant program came through. So we did get funding from that initial grant. We were given 4 months from December 2015 to March 2016. And at that point in time, we created an online platform, virtual archives. We thought this was the most important thing because we had all the Ontario genealogical books digitized. Nobody could actually see them, as well as other ones. So we uploaded their digitized items and we tested the digitizing process to see how it would work. The next year we didn't get a grant, but the next year after that, in June 27, we received a grant for 3 years, which allowed us to digitize about 85,000 pages per year. And we also user contribution section, which I'll describe later. In those 3 years, we targeted Northeast, the Southwest, and the Northwest. We didn't do the Eastern section of Ontario because that is where the digitizing company was, and we thought later on it might be easier for transportation purposes to get it to the digitizing company. So currently we are processing backlog. We're working with organizations to continue digitizing through self-funding, and I guess for the general help desk. Well, the steps towards the virtual archives. First, you need to locate the books, and then each book is given a name, a file name. so that when they're digitized, you know which branch they belong to. You can't just say brown book, blue book. And then they were digitized by Image Advantage, who are near Brockville. They also picked up and returned the books so that the books are always in their possession and not through a third party or through the mail or anything like that. Once they were finished, the digital version was sent to the Women's Institute office and then over to Our Digital World to load onto the virtual archives. And they also apply the optical character reading, which makes it searchable. And they are our website provider. And then once they were loaded, then metadata was added. And these are fields and description of the documents. Every Tweedsmire is reviewed for privacy considerations. And then once that's done, it's open to the public, less the pages that are considered private. Our current status, we estimate half of the Tweedsmire collections have been digitized. There are approximately 3,100 documents in the digital collection, with a little more than half open to the public and the rest still to finish processing. Plus, we have 110 images of community involvement and 2,160 entities. These are the branches, district, areas, and provinces, and every document and image is attached to the applicable level of the Women's Institute. So our weakest link is the post-processing. We have 4 people working on completing the fields, none of which of us are full-time. And our first priority are documents where privacy review has been completed. And there's no known grant funding in the horizon. So I'll just walk you through our virtual archives just to show you how you can maneuver a bit. This is the home screen. You can, the website is there. It's also on the handout, but you can just do a Google search on FWIO collections or FWIO Tweedsmire, and this will usually be the first one to pop up. One normally just puts a term under the find. It can be a place or name or anything, and do a search, and it'll search across everything. Or you can narrow it down to a featured collection. On the left-hand side, there's information about the collection. There's advanced search capabilities and some search hints. On the right-hand side is what's new. And it just goes through with what's been added recently or opened recently to the public. And you can see probably the last 100 or so by using the left-hand side, what's new. So in this case, I put in the name Glasgow, which is a place nearby, just to see what would come up. Excuse me. So there were 96 matching items. You can see them by a list or by various methods here. The first item here is the Glasgow Women's Institute, the entity itself. And wherever you see a WI crest here, that means it's the entity level, be it branch, district, area, for example. Then underneath that are all the other items found where the word Glasgow was there. On this one, on the volume 4, it shows what pages actually that you can actually see the word Glasgow, and you can click on any one of those and see the page, or you can go right to the top and at the title and open it up and start from page 1. On the right-hand side, you can filter within these results, and you can do a search and you get a term, maybe a name that you're looking for at Glasgow. And then there's other ways to filter down below. So I'll open the Glasgow Women's Institute just to show you what's there. Under the description, which it opens up to, it tells you whether it's active or not, and the date it started and disbanded, if it was disbanded. it shows under location of original where you would find the Tweedsmire book. On the right-hand side, it shows that it's part of Renfrew South District. And if you would click on this, it would list all branches past and present that were in Renfrew South District. There were 20 some of them at one time, and there's 6 remaining at the moment. And under that are the records that are attached to Glasgow Women's Institute. And you could click on any one of those if you wanted to. And if you scroll down further on the page, it also shows you a pin of where it's situated, which isn't too far from the Ottawa River. That's the black, and here's the Ottawa River, and that can be zoomed in or not. And then under the records, if you move over to this tab here, records, beside the description, it shows you all the items that have been attached to the Glasgow Women's Institute. So in this case, there were 2 community involvement items and 4 Tweedsmire books attached. So I'm going to open up the first Tweedsmire book. And I don't know why they're not in order, but I'll open up the first one. Under pages, you can select what page you want to look at. You can select your first page, and then from there you can go and just scroll through page by page. Again, you can search within the title. And below here is a description of what you could find in this volume. And those are quite handy. Some are very detailed and some not so much. This is sort of a middle one. And there's a name, a fleck. So I did a search within this title of a fleck. And then 3 pages that had the name of fleck on them, page 32, 47, 88. And you wouldn't see all 3 pages on your screen. I just put them here so you could see them together. Can pick your pages and move forward or backward from it, or pick another page. You can take a PDF version of the page. So these 3 results, one was showing Mrs. John Fleck being her role in the Women's Institute, and that's on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side is the Glasgow baseball team with Raymond Fleck being one of the members. And the middle one talks about the death of one of the Fleck boys. So I'll open that up. And it actually describes 3 brothers dying in World War I. Gives a lot of information on them. And so if you were interested in the Fleck family, this was something that would really interest you very much. So then I try to get something closer to home. So or your home, not mine. So I picked another family name to do a search, Robichaud, and to see what would come up. Found 16 matches. We wouldn't find any in Kent County because we have no Tweedsmires actually from Kent that have been digitized. But these, the first things you see, there's always a snippet, or most of the time a snippet of information of what your first hit on Robichaud would be. And this showing that Marion Robichaud has a twin sister, and that would be page 8. And there's 2 pages within this Monteith Women's Institute Tweedsmire that has the word Robichaud. So I looked up the second one, and it's got the death of Mrs. G. Robichaud. And you can see it's highlighted, the pages, the word, but down below where there is more information, because it's handwritten, it wasn't recognized and not searchable. So this shows you that handwritten is not yet searchable. Hopefully it will be sometime soon. Then I also picked another item. And this was from Glen Orchard Women's Institute, page 879. This volume had well over 1,000 pages. Anyway, this is the Henshaw family tree. And near the bottom, there's a Laura May that married a Ted Robichaud. That's highlighted. We also have all the home and country newsletters from 1933 onward. And it's fully searchable because they're all typed, or they can be browsed page by page. We have minutes from various branches and other levels. We didn't concentrate on minutes because we wanted to do the funding for the Tweedsmire. But if a branch did not have a Tweedsmire but had their minutes, we did digitize them up to 50 years from now. So this one's that you see is the February 19, 1897 organizational meeting of the first WI meeting in the world. And you can see the president here is Mrs. E.D. Smith, and that's of the E.D. Smith Jams Company. There are provincial history books present. There are also cookbooks because some of the Tweedsmire collections contain cookbooks. It's not just the Tweedsmire books, there's also other items in a Tweedsmire collection. So some notes on our virtual archives. Many Tweedsmires are still closed to public until they've been reviewed for privacy. There's about 1,000 to go. The minutes, as I said before, are closed if less than 50 years old, which is 1972 and 2022. And in fact, we did not or tried not to digitize any minutes that weren't 50 years, more than 50 years old, because we wanted to concentrate on things we could actually open up with the public. Copyright is from 50 years from the close of the book, not from when it started. So again, that is 1972. So there, most Tweedsmires or many Tweedsmires are still under copyright. Again, it's searchable, but not all found. For example, minutes are normally handwritten. The Tweedsmires, there's a lot of handwriting and there is poor typing. So it's worthwhile browsing page by page. We've also added the facility to document our community involvement. These are just some examples, some plaques or benches or Women's Institute halls and other items. And this started in 2017 as our year 120 project, and it was part of the LAC's grant. And we wanted to do it before history was lost in time, as many of the branches are disbanding or have disbanded. So anybody can do it. It doesn't have to be a Women's Institute member. You take a photo and then describe it through Share Your Story, which is on the main. There's about 10 so far. And the one in the corner at the bottom, the image is Campbell Women's Institute. And it's their monument and their parquet that they created. Campbell is the oldest active branch in the world. Just some examples that I enjoy looking at. One is by Glasgow Women's Institute for the Canada's 150th. And then the Learning Chair created by Reed's Corners at Ripley. And there's also items on community health and well-being and a lot of road safety improvements over the years. There are other online sites. Elgin County Archives, as you probably know, has most, if not all, their Tweedsmire history books digitized. Roots also has many digitized. This isn't an up-to-date screen, but it does list all, not all of them, but at least some of the branches that they have there. King Township Public Library, on the middle there has about 8 Tweedsmires there. Oxford Material Genealogical Society created an online index showing all the branches and sort of their community that they look after. These are past and present. And I just want to let you know that most of these have been digitized. Where there are Tweedsmires, they just haven't been open to the public yet. So stay tuned for that. There are also oral histories. This is one we did in 2014. We interviewed a number of our oldest members. And so it's nice to hear their voices because many of them have now passed on. There's other access. You can just do a general Google search like take a place and add Tweedsmire to it and just see what comes up. You can visit archives, museums, and libraries, etc., to see if they have Tweedsmires. The Archives of Ontario in the 1960s microfilmed quite a few. And those are noted on our branches past and present list. And there's also a set at the University of Guelph, but neither of them can be taken out and looked at. There's also the Helen Doctor collection at the Brant County OGS Resource Center. She photocopied many, many, many Tweedsmires, not just within Brant County, but quite a distance away. And you can contact active branches to arrange for viewing. So I want to thank both Kent and Essex Ontario Genealogical Society, as they have started a project to help find and digitize the Tweedsmires. We met with the branch chairs in the fall last year. They're going to try and find and digitize them, and they'll use microfilm if they can't find the originals. They'll agree to complete a privacy review for each and provide content descriptions and dates for metadata completion. So this will really help speed things along in the background. And I'm very impressed and that so much progress has been made since then. This is for Kent East branches, which is a little more than what you saw in the last chart. The ones with the red arrows are branches where you expect the branch to have a Tweedsmire, but yet the location of that Tweedsmire yet. For example, Bothwell, it didn't disband to 1995, so I would suspect there is a Tweedsmire out there somewhere for it. And the members' homes, location at members' homes, even though they're disbanded, this normally occurs because when a branch disbands, they'll say, let me finish up the Tweedsmire book, and then we'll put it somewhere. And then they either don't get back to us to where they put it, or it's still sitting at that prior member's home. The year, the online with the question mark, which is right beside the location. The WIP means work in process. And those are ones where the Kent OGS has started. Some have been digitized, but not yet processed. And it'll change once those are available online. For Kent West, they've been doing a lot of work there. I think there's 10 total between the two, Kent East and Kent West. And there are quite a few, as you can see by the arrows, that one would suspect that there should be a Tweedsmire book for. So again, I want to thank Kent and Essex for taking it. Very, very much appreciated. So how can others help? You could advise when you do locate a Tweedsmire that's not on our list. Some are in homes, as I said, of families of prior members. You could help document the Women's Institute halls, monuments, and plaques using the Share Your Story feature. It's actually fun. When you find one, you can just take a picture and upload it. If you're interested, you could help us behind the scenes to complete metadata, etc. And please donate if you find worthwhile. We do have a number of branches and other entities that want to get their Tweedsmires digitized, but we don't have the funding at this point in time. So again, thank you for allowing me to talk to you tonight. Here's some information on how you can contact us or where to find us. Again, it's in our handbook. And if you are interested in joining, you can contact the office or us, or just find a branch and see if there's one close to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Irene. That was great. That was a really good overview. Angela, are there any questions right now?
Yep, there's a couple here. The first one was asking about the first books in 1947. Were there any guidelines or criteria, templates, or anything on what should be included in the books?
There probably wasn't right away, but definitely there is a Tweedsmire manual that came out shortly and it has been updated. And it's available in the, I think it's the members only part of their site, but it could be open to everyone. Saying basically how you could set up the book if you wanted to. But it's very flexible on what you want to cover or not cover.
And another question was, what are the oldest Tweedsmire books out there and how far back do they go?
Well, they started in 1947 or 45 to get ready for 1947. So those are the oldest ones. Prior to that, there was, let's see, what did they call it? Historical research and current events started in the 1920s to encourage local members to start compiling scrapbooks to chronicle the history of their local community. So those were the forerunners of the Tweedsmires. So you could find something there. But when they started the Tweedsmires, they went back and did a lot of research on their community and wrote it up in the Tweedsmires. So it didn't actually start, information there, it doesn't start in the 1940s. It can go back well into the 1800s and move forward.
Anybody else have a question? Pop it in the chat.
So not so much a question, Irene, but that was going to be one of my comments is while we've been scanning a few of the local books, although they did start, as you say, around the 1945, 47, a lot of them have the complete history of their community. So
Yeah.
as you say, they start much, much earlier, the early people, the town, the land, you know, who was who and what they were doing. So they are a gold mine of information.
Yeah, so when they're going back to family histories or farm histories, they start right back from the start in many cases.
And just the, last week we were scanning one of the Wabash Tweedsmires, and inside of it was, you mentioned church booklets and things. So we have quite a substantial church history collection in our library, and tucked inside the Wabash was this little tiny, almost like a centennial of one of the churches there that we did not have in our collection. So tucked inside of these books, there's little treasures that I don't think we were expecting. We thought it was going to be a bunch of newspaper clippings and things like that. So again, just, you know, you never know what you're going to find inside of these things.
That's right. And the digitizing company, who loved doing our Tweedsmires, by the way, because they were fascinating to the lady that was doing it, but there were always things tucked in within the covers and stuff that you weren't expecting. And then they got digitized as part of that Tweedsmire book, whether it was just an insert or like a church event, as you were saying. So anything can be found, for sure.
So as Irene pointed out, we have been starting to try to get the word out and to gather and to assist with this project. So as she mentioned, if you know of somebody who maybe has one, you know of a location, definitely reach out. If it is Kent County, you can reach out to either, you know, their group or our group, since we're working together. But please spread the word around. We recently connected with the Dresden Historical Group, and somebody drove up to them and handed them a Molly Creek, and it was the original, and this thing is super fragile, so that could have very easily went to the garbage. So just preserving these things. And I think one thing that struck me as interesting when we were talking before, Irene, is the goal is not to take these books out of the community, simply to preserve them, make a digital copy for accessibility, but you want them to remain in the community as much as possible. Is that correct?
That's right, for sure.
So really, we just want to borrow. We just want to borrow your books.
That's right.
And we will return them to the caretakers
That's
with
very true.
appreciation that they took care of them all these years. So I did notice too, you showed us the online index that Oxford branch has on their website. And I think that's a great idea. And it might be something that we might have to chat about at Kent branch. I think that's that's a well worth little project there.
Especially if you can start connecting the actual Tweedsmire to the branch.
Mhm.
Yes, it would be good. It'll be nice when Oxford's books have been open to the public, because they've done a tremendous amount of work, and the branches have self-funded on the whole to get them done.
Right. And that's the other side of the coin too, was that we do have a variety of scanning equipment, and we do have a room at the Chatham Kent Public Library. So we do have the equipment and the people who, if you do have some of these in your basement, or you know your neighbor has one, and they're willing to allow it to be digitized, you know, we can pick it up from you. We can take it up to the library. We can digitize it quite quickly and get it back to you. So that is something that we're willing to offer as a community service as well, you know, is gathering these up and getting them digitized. But we need to know that they're there first. So that's where all the listeners on the presentation tonight, that's your goal, is to, you know, go home and try to figure out if you know where some of these valuable books are held. And it was interesting that you did a Robichaux search, and I was chuckling because my Robichauxs are not from Kent County. So it was interesting when you did find some things, and I was really leaning into the computer to see what you were able to find. So that's a good tip for searching on the website, which is quite impressive.
Okay, there's a
Our
couple more
digital world
questions.
does okay, sorry.
Sorry, there was just a couple more questions in the chat. Is there a catalog at Erland Lee of Tweedsmire books housed there? The person who asked is looking for Good Luck Women's Institute from Essex County.
The best is to go onto that chart, the branches past and present, and see what it says there. There is no index at the Erland Lee, and we don't try to house things that aren't close by, but we do, I think, have the Cottam Women's Institute, because again, somebody dropped it in and we were about to digitize, so we kept it at that point in time to make sure it got digitized. But that one probably still is at the Erland Lee.
What was the most interesting thing you discovered inside a Tweedsmire book?
It's a good question. I don't know if I have the answer to that. As Cindy was saying, there's booklets, there's you got a life membership pin stuck inside. There's all kinds of things. Each are different.
Okay. And someone wanted to know the name of the digitizing company.
Yes, it's Image Advantage. They're from Mallory Town, which is near Rockville. And they did an excellent job in their work.
And are there any Tweedsmire histories done in provinces other than Ontario?
Normally not, because I wasn't sure myself when I started as a Tweedsmire coordinator. There are bits and pieces. Alberta has a bit, but they're not really a Tweedsmire as we know them. Some of them are History of the Women's Institute, and that's about it. And I don't know of any that have community information in them.
That's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Okay, so I think the other side of the coin of, you know, having our viewers keep an ear and an eye open for these books is also if anybody has some extra time. I know that you're always looking for volunteers, as you mentioned in your presentation. And those tasks are really things they can be doing from home, correct?
Yes, it's all virtual. There was our team at one time. We had never met each other for at least a couple of years. And now we have, through conferences before COVID, we were meeting. But yes, we were doing all the stuff through our online system, through our digital world.
Right, so pretty much anybody anywhere, if they have access to a computer and a little bit of time, they could be assisting with some of this project to help getting it going. So I think that's a really worthwhile endeavor to do too. And of course, at Ken Branch, we're always looking for volunteers. So, once they're digitized, as Irene mentioned, then we're gonna, we still have to go in and edit them and do some description and the metadata and things like that. So we also are looking for, those folks to work behind the scenes. So if you have some spare time, reach out, and I'm sure we can find you a job.
Yeah, and we have the instructions all written. And I'm usually too thorough on instructions, so it's got more than you need.
Right, even better. Okay, well, is there any other questions, Angela? I'm thinking no.
No, sorry. I unmuted and remuted myself at once.
Okay, great. Well, thanks, Angela, for helping, and Kim for getting the presentation up and going. And Irene, of course, thank you for joining us tonight. Irene's handout has been put into the chat a couple times, and it is a 5-page handout. So anything you need to know is probably on there. It's very comprehensive, which is wonderful. So be sure to go to the chat and download it so you have a copy yourself. Susan is saying, very interesting presentation. So thank you everyone for joining us. Be sure to join back in March, March. No sense rewinding back to the cold weather. Join us in May, and we'll go through the resources at the Chatham-Kent Public Library. And everybody have a great evening. Thank you for joining us on your Friday night. And again, Irene, thank you for joining us, and we will be in touch for sure.
Okay, thank you very much, Cindy, and everyone else.
Great. Thanks, everyone. Good night.